Hi, I'm Kezia, a stroke survivor and member of Bind.
And hi, I'm Carrie, a stroke survivor and also a member of Bind. And today, we thought it would be fun to go ahead and start the new year with a recap of all things BIN, Brain Injury Network. It's what we've accomplished in 2023 and what we can look forward to in 2024. So with that, we have our fearless leader and executive director, Brian White. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
So last year saw our 11th year as a nonprofit and almost 2 full years producing this podcast. Woohoo! How do you think we're doing?
Well, let me tell you, I think we're doing great. We continue to grow and expand our reach, and really the main purpose of the podcast is to develop awareness throughout our community. So the first year we were doing this, we had 1,000 downloads in that year. And in the second year, we've added an additional 1,500. And by the time we get to the actual 2-year mark, we may actually be around 3,000. So we do continue to expand. We've grown our followership by about 140%, which is really outstanding, and we've grown our number of episodes every week. We just keep making more and more and more. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also want to make sure that people know that the podcast isn't really the only social media platform that we use, and it's not the only presence of the Brain Injury Network, which we will continue to say BIN, just so people know. So the Brain Injury Network also has Facebook and an Instagram account, and all of that, I think it's important for people to know that it's brain injury survivors that run that show. So how does the brain injury survivors contribute to that being present and being produced?
Yeah, our members that work in the media and merch area, the media and merch unit, work on developing the actual posts. So they write the content, they get the backgrounds and the pictures together. And back up a little bit, we have a monthly planning session between both clubhouses, and they decide who's going to post what messages on what day and how that relates to the clubhouse. So it's really all driven by the membership, and it's been very successful. We've seen a growth not only just in our social media followership by about 5% this past year, but we've seen a growth in new donors, more money coming in on particular days like North Texas Giving Day and things along those lines. So
right,
it's been
and
really
just so everyone knows, both clubhouses do that. Bind Plano and Bind Fort Worth.
Correct.
Take part in doing those posts.
Correct.
Okay.
Or more accurately said, Bind and Bind Fort Worth.
True. I'm just adding in the Plano now because that's still hard. I'm getting used to doing all that though. BIN is the hardest part for me, but also speaking of BIN, members have also started creating merchandise for us for things that we do, like our Snap Slaps coming up. But we've also helped other nonprofits. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We're part of an alliance here in Texas called Clubhouse Texas that involves about, I think it's 14 clubhouses, most of which are mental health clubhouses. And for their annual Capitol Day this year, we produced all of the T-shirts for the NAMI walk to the Capitol. So that's the National Association of Mental Illness. And I think we produced almost 400 T-shirts for that. And we also did another kind of fall gala for a local clubhouse here called Prelude Clubhouse, and we produced their fall T-shirts as well. So we want to continue to expand that and support our other nonprofits in the area. So if anybody's interested in having T-shirts or tumblers or coffee mugs or hats or anything like that produced, contact us here at Bind, and we'll work on getting your order filled.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I also just want people that are watching us on YouTube, our shirt was all created by members, and I think it's just a new skill, something that we learned that we probably wouldn't have learned had we not been through this experience. So I think they're super great, and it's something new to learn about. But so now that we've talked about 2023 and all the great things, we've gone through and been successful at, It does sound, and it really has been, that we've been busy. We've been very busy. It has been like a really exciting year. Actually, 2023 was challenging. Can you give us like a quick review overall about like our major events in 2023?
Sure. So historically, we've had a walk here in our office park called Synapse Labs. And last year, we were lucky enough to partner with Toyota Music Factory in Irving, and they basically gave us their facility to use. And so we wanted to make it a much bigger event and more of a fundraising kind of thing than what it's been in the past. So we had set a goal for that to double our participation. And historically here at the office park, we had around 100 people coming out every year. So we were looking for 200. Well, we got 250 people this year. And thanks in no small part to our clubhouse partners and a presenting partner for the event, Lone Star Neurology, we raised over $20,000 for that event. So this year we have a goal again to double the participation again this year, and we've added a run component to that as well. Another thing we did here in May and June, we basically kind of gutted everything out, remodeled the Plano Clubhouse. So Home Depot Foundation gave us a grant for $13,000 worth of material. They brought in their pro division people and helped us basically over a period of 2 or 3 weeks kind of repaint. We tore out some walls, put in new flooring, new appliances, just kind of really stem to stern. And that was a monumental project that involved over 1,000 volunteer hours in 3 weeks. So we also had North Texas Giving Day, which is our fall fundraising event from Community Foundation. And we set another record this year. We raised over $33,000 this year, and we added 21 new donors to that event. So that's really huge. And I tie that back to our social media. We attended the IBICA conference, which is the Brain Injury Clubhouse National Conference, and we participated in Virginia Beach with, I think it was something like 14 other clubhouses, and really expanded our network, got to meet a lot of the people for the first time, for myself especially, and it was really a good exchange of information. We redesigned our website again to make it more SEO friendly and to try and continue to make it more appealing for people to use and easier for people to use. We hosted an annual auction. Historically, we did the auction with the gala. We dropped the gala component because it was not really working any longer. We weren't getting the participation that we were historically had. So we're just doing the auction component, and then in its place, we really added a golf tournament. So both the auction and golf tournament were very successful, and we hope to continue to grow that. Probably this year, it'll be the auction and golf tournament together, so more to come on that as we get the details coming out.
Well, Brian, I just for our listeners, will you explain, when you said the website, you said SEO? Just so our listeners aren't sure what SEO is. I know what it is, but can you tell us?
It's basically, in layman's terms, where there are certain words that when people Google search those words, if they're on your website, it will help bring your website up so they can click on it.
So if someone types in brain injury awareness,
we want ours to be the first one up, yeah.
Yeah. And I hope we are.
Yeah, I hope so too. Now we're going to go test it. So we talked a little bit, that was our next question you hit on is, like, there's been changes in both the clubhouses, both Bind and Bind Fort Worth. We talked about the renovation. I don't know, those of you that can tell, maybe you can tell, our studio is a little different. We moved from the back of the clubhouse to the front of the clubhouse, so we've got a little bit more space in here. We're still working on getting it all pretty. Sorry, it's kind of bland right now, but you got, Kezia to look at, so that's all you need. But I know Fort Worth. Tell us a little bit what's going on with Fort Worth.
Well, after a 14-month exhaustive search, we found I'll call it a permanent home for the Fort Worth location. We started off in a church annex, and we were there for the first year and a half. The church gave us a very favorable situation to really get a foothold into the Fort Worth community. And November 1st, we moved into a permanent location just off of 820 and Beach Street in North Fort Worth. So we're very excited about that. And we're in the process of setting up and getting new furniture and new computers and all the kind of stuff that we need for that new location. But all of the members are really excited. The other component to that was our program director that was in Fort Worth departed for other opportunities, and so we have backfilled her, and she actually starts next week. Her name is Liz Glashin, so we're real excited to have Liz on board, and I know she's very excited to be part of the organization.
We're excited for that. I have one more question I want to ask you about Fort Worth, but before we do that, I'm going to take a quick little break and ask our viewers and subscribers to go ahead and click that like button, that follow button, that subscribe button, share button, click the buttons. We appreciate that. So one other thing I wanted to ask you about Fort Worth, I know we had an end of year campaign that was to help fund Fort Worth to get the clubhouse back up and running. How did that go?
It turned out to be very successful. We had kicked off the campaign on Giving Tuesday, which is the last Tuesday in November, and we had a goal of raising $30,000 to really help Fort Worth get established. And thanks in no small part to a very large foundational grant from the Do Foundation, we reached our goal and actually exceeded our goal by a few $100s. So we're really set up to be successful there in Fort Worth and move forward in 2024. So
yeah, I know they're excited about their kitchen stuff and having an actual kitchen where they can cook instead of rolling it all out and cook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think also in your conversation, you were talking a little bit more about the networking and how important it is for the podcast and for Bind and clubhouses overall over the U.S. And you mentioned a little bit about the clubhouse in Texas meeting in Austin. So how was that? Networking is.
Yeah. So as part of Clubhouse Texas, we did go to the annual meeting for that alliance as well. We sent down 2 staff to Austin, and they brought back a wealth of information. On top of that, the alliance has now decided to be part of the national organization of Clubhouse International. And so we've now been recognized as an official alliance within that organization, meaning that we actually have more influence in the particular areas where our alliance participates. So it helps bring more political power to the local clubhouse scene, if you will, so within here in Texas, but then it also helps us politically reach a wider audience nationally as well. So.
Yeah, and I think it's so very important too to see how we kind of all end up knowing each other and how we all understand what we're going through and the importance of having a clubhouse located in your state, in your area, and how it can affect others. So
yeah, we just had 2 therapists touring our facility, and I work with both of them at 2 different facilities. So
I thought one of them looked familiar.
Very small world.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yep. Well, so we kind of touched on all the big things, I think, in 2023. Did we miss anything?
I think the main thing is we're really on a strong growth trajectory. Our goal in Fort Worth is to continue to grow that membership over there. We have some very strategic kinds of activities planned to help that membership continue to grow. But that's more for 2024
right.
and kind of what we're going to do in the year ahead.
And that's where we're going to head now, is to 2024. Can you share with us, or what information can you share with us and our listeners about our financial strength of Brain Injury Network as we enter into 2024?
Yeah, so we ended the year very strong. In the last quarter, we had a lot of excellent fundraising. And so we're going into 2024 with a very strong financial position. And we expect that with our walk coming up in April, some of the activities around Brain Injury Awareness Month in March, we expect that strength to continue throughout this year, and to the point where we're really hopeful to add back into our reserves. We do have a long-term goal of having 6 months of operating costs in reserves. So anything we can do to kind of work towards that, we really want to have a more secure position in the world by having those reserves.
Sure.
Right. And yeah, I think it's kind of like, I don't know if anyone feels like this, like, oh, numbers, finances, okay. But I think it is really important to see that this financial strength is really important for brain injury survivors, because all of us are in a different level or like step into our recovery. It's everyone has different needs. And with having those financial like strength and stable, it has allowed us to have this podcast. Like really, it's not cheap, guys,
Yeah, as I always say, we don't charge our members, so it doesn't cost them anything, but that doesn't mean that having Bind is free.
Right.
It does cost money. Now, the good news is in 2023, we raised just a little bit more than we had budgeted, and we spent quite substantially, almost 10% less than what we had budgeted on expenses. So that's part of what's helped us put it in a good position. But also, we're really having a return of interns and volunteers. The Fort Worth, one of the things for 2024, 2025 is the Junior League of Fort Worth they've already picked us as a volunteer site for them. Oh, cool. And so they've dedicated at least 250 hours of volunteer time to the Fort Worth clubhouse.
That's great.
So that's part of what makes us strong, is when we can get those volunteer assistants instead of having to hire people as well. So.
Right. And I think right now you talked a little bit too about like the strategy for membership and how important it is for brain injury survivors to come on to the clubhouse.
Sure.
Which either the one here in Plano or the one in Fort Worth, what is your goal for increasing the membership onto either or?
So I don't have a specific number. My goal is that we can have Fort Worth open 5 days a week by the end of the year, and that's really driven by membership size and membership ability to attend on multiple days. So that's really the goal, is to have that clubhouse open 5 days a week by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And within Plano, our efforts to go out and talk to the rehabs and talk to the hospitals and talk to the support groups and the things that we're doing, along with our social media, I can't stress that enough, is that, we're seeing membership recover. From July to the end of the year, we actually added 10 new members in the Plano clubhouse. And in historical areas where our growth was really small, like in McKinney, we actually have added a couple of people as well. Good. So, we really look at the demographics, because there's money tied to a lot of that. So we really keep an eye on all of that and try and keep going out into the community, keep our social media current, relevant, helps draw people in. And the good news, we've had pre-pandemic members who are still starting to come back. So we've had a few new members come back in the last 3 or 4 months that hadn't been back since the pandemic started. So
that's always good. So, and I know we've had discussions about our board of directors. Is there any current information you'd like to say about the board, or?
Well, we turned over our vice president this past year, and so Karen Stahl is our new board vice president. She's a rock star for us.
We have had her on the podcast, not as a part of the board, but...
Yeah. Our president of the board, Juan Enriquez, his term is up this month, so I expect him to renew his term.
Juan, are you listening?
For the next 3 years. And we're always looking for talented people across industries, finance, insurance, legal. We're always looking for good people that are interested in doing volunteer work and being part of a successful, growing organization to come and join the board and volunteer.
And I know we really would like to get some in Fort Worth to help us grow Fort Worth.
Yeah. We're really looking at key individuals in Fort Worth that we know that we hopefully can bring onto the board. So,
yeah. Okay. I honestly really want to thank you for allowing your time to be here. I mean, as a director of Brain Injury Network, and your investment of your time has obviously been, I think you have been on our podcast before when you first started. And I hope that listeners understand the huge difference it has been in just 1 year. So thank you so much for here and giving up your time. And if you need anything else to say, let me know.
No, I mean, this is one of the best jobs I've ever had in my career, and I just love it. It's super easy to put all my energy into it. So it's very, very rewarding, and it's awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us again, Brian, and thank you for being our awesome executive director. We appreciate all that you do, and the what's the word I want to say? I don't know. It'll come to me in a minute. The encouragement that you give those of us, especially here on the podcast team, that as we gain new members, learning how to do things in here. I mean, this is totally out of our wheelhouse, but we're having fun, and you encourage us daily on it, so we appreciate all that effort that you give us back.
Yeah, we're hoping in 2024 to make it 100% member-driven for the podcast. We're about 98% now, so really hoping to get that last couple of percent and have you guys be completely independent with it. So
yeah, of course. Well, thank you. And I want to also thank our listeners for attaching with us for, however many minutes it takes to help you learn about brain injury survivors. And just to make sure to click our like and all of our buttons to make sure that you listen to us every Thursday for our new episodes.
And I also want to remind you, before I give you our basic information, to go check out the new website, the newly designed BIN website, which is still the bind.org, because we can't really change that right now. But it has everything for both clubhouses. So if you're interested in becoming a member, a volunteer, adding yourself to our board, that's where you're going to want to go. And then again, if you want to contact us personally here at Bindwaves, we have our own email, which is bindwaves@thebind.org. So you can email us there. Follow us on Instagram. We have our own Instagram, Bindwaves, and then follow BIN. Is it BIND on Instagram too, Brian? No, it's bind.org. It's thebind.org on Instagram, as well as Facebook.
I think it's the bind.org.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not
no dot. Okay. We'll figure it out at some point in time, but yeah. So.
Okay. Well,
okay.
Until next time.
Until next time. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Bind Waves and continue to support Bind and our nonprofit mission.
We support brain injury survivors as they reconnect into the life, the community, and their workplace.
And we couldn't do that without great listeners like you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Continue watching. Until next time.
Until next time.